They named the child Lucky, a fitting name for one who had entered the world under such difficult circumstances. The decision to raise him together was unanimous, and from that moment on, Roaring Valley began to change. The once chaotic, dusty camp slowly transformed. The miners who had only cared about finding gold now found themselves caring for something far more precious, a child. They built a proper crib for Lucky, cleaned up the camp, and even planted a small garden near his cabin. The camp, once filled with rough men and rougher conditions, started to take on a more vibrant, warm appearance. Lucky thrived under the care of his unusual family. The miners who once only showed strength through their work now demonstrated it through their love and dedication to the boy. They took turns feeding him, playing with him, and watching over him as he grew. Lucky's laughter echoed through the valley, bringing light to even the darkest corners of the camp. And with each passing day, the miners grew closer, bonded not just by their work, but by their shared love for the little boy who had brought new life to Roaring Valley. But the peace and joy wouldn't last forever. One winter, a powerful storm rolled through the valley, bringing with it devastating floods. The river that ran near the camp swelled and overflowed, sending torrents of icy water rushing through the settlement. In the chaos, the miners scrambled to save their homes and their belongings. Amidst the confusion, Lucky went missing. Panic spread like wildfire. The miners who had grown to love Lucky as their own frantically searched through the rising waters. Hearts raced and fear gripped them as they called out his name, hoping for a sign of the child. Hours passed and hope began to fade. Then through the storm, one of the miners spotted a figure. Kent, a quiet but strong man, was wading through the floodwaters. In his arms, he held Lucky, his face pale and his steps unsteady. Kent had found the boy and saved him from the raging waters, but not without a cost. He was mortally wounded, his strength fading fast. The miners rushed to his side, but it was clear that Kent wouldn't survive the night. In his final moments, Kent smiled down at Lucky, cradling the boy with what little strength he had left. His last words were simple but filled with emotion. "I'm glad I could bring him with me." With that, Kent passed away, leaving the miners heartbroken yet grateful for his sacrifice. Though they had lost a friend, the miners knew that Kent's sacrifice and Lucky's survival would forever change them. The bond they shared was no longer just about hard work and survival. It was about love, humanity, and the family they had created together. Lucky had given them more than they could have ever imagined. A new beginning in a place that once seemed destined to be nothing more than a rough mining camp. Roaring Valley was never the same again, and neither were the men who lived there. In the rugged and remote mining settlement of Roaring Valley, life was tough and unforgiving. The miners, hardened by their daily toil of digging for gold, were used to rough work, loud brawls, and long nights of gambling. It was a place where hope seemed scarce, where the only goal was survival and striking it rich. Among the many burly men who called Roaring Valley home, there was only one woman, Sal, a quiet figure who mostly kept to herself. But one day, something extraordinary happened that would change the camp forever. Sal was in labor. The news of her impending childbirth spread quickly, stirring excitement and nervous energy among the rough and tumble miners. These men, more accustomed to the clang of pickaxes and the shuffle of cards, suddenly found themselves in a situation they had never faced before: the arrival of a baby. The thought of a new life entering their gritty world was foreign to them, but beneath their tough exteriors, a spark of tenderness began to emerge. The men gathered outside Sal's modest cabin, shuffling their feet awkwardly as they exchanged glances filled with both curiosity and concern. After all, this wasn't just any baby. It would be Roaring Valley's first ever child. Inside the cabin, however, things were not going smoothly. Sal's health was failing, and the strain of childbirth was taking its toll on her. The miners, realizing the gravity of the situation, felt a rare wave of worry. These men who faced danger daily in the mines were suddenly gripped by a sense of helplessness. In their panic, they turned to Stumpy, one of the older miners who had experience raising children back in a life long forgotten. Stumpy, despite his usual gruff demeanor, stepped up, ready to help deliver the baby as best as he could. Outside, the camp had gone quiet. The miners, usually rowdy and loud, stood anxiously waiting for news. The air was thick with tension, as if the entire camp held its breath. Time seemed to stretch, and every creak of the cabin door made their hearts race. Then finally, a baby's cry pierced the silence. The men rushed forward, peering through the cabin's door. There in Stumpy's arms was a tiny, wriggling baby boy. The camp erupted in a mixture of cheers and relieved sighs. But their joy was soon tempered by the sad news that Sal had not survived the birth. The men who had barely known her now felt a strange and unfamiliar grief settle over them. Despite their sorrow, they knew they had a new responsibility before them. This baby was now theirs.
Thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and follow to update for the next video.